Hello, Michael Tracy here, TYT. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Okay, so I wanted to do a quick video here on town hall meetings, which has long been a feature of the American political scene. They have long been a site of where political expression is carried out. And it just so happens that a lot of Republican members of Congress are canceling their town hall meetings of late. Now, what does that stem from? Obviously, a few weeks ago now, Jason Chaffetz, a Republican member of Congress from Utah, held a town hall meeting, and a lot of Salt Lake City-based liberal groups decided to show up, cause a bit of a ruckus. I think everything that those people did there at the town hall meeting was well within the confines of what we would consider acceptable political speech. They didn't do anything violent. They didn't do anything that was excessively disruptive or that made people feel victimized in any way. They just expressed their political views, which I think is well within their prerogative to do. But it generated a lot of publicity, and obviously there's a coordinated effort now among people who are associated with the Democratic Party, liberals, and even some leftists to go to these town hall meetings and create a little bit of mayhem, which is perfectly fine in terms of how a democracy ought to function. So I just wanted to cite a few statistics here demonstrating how cowardly, I would say, members of Congress are at the moment. And then, by the way, this is largely Republicans at the moment, but every Democrat is not holding a town hall meeting right now either. Partially out of laziness, partially out of complacency. Who knows exactly why, but if you go look at, for example, the California congressional delegation, there are 14 members of Congress who are Republicans from California, and only one of them has an in-person town hall meeting that's occurred in the past several weeks or is scheduled to occur in the next several weeks. One congressperson from California did hold a town hall meeting in early February, Tom McClintock, but he ended up having to be escorted out after agitated constituents tried to buttonhole him and did the same thing that they did to Chaffetz in Utah. Steve Knight has a town hall tentatively scheduled for March 4th. He is a member of Congress from the Los Angeles area, one of the few districts that is still in Republican hands in that area. And he claims he's going to be holding a town hall on March 4th, but there is no information as to the location of the meeting or anything that could give anyone indication as to how to attend it. So I'm a little skeptical that that alleged event will ever end up happening, because I think increasingly you're seeing members of Congress assert that it is a sufficient replacement for them to hold what are called telephone town halls or telephonic town halls. I don't know what word would be the most grammatically apt there. But it's basically when they claim that they can hold a telephone town hall, what that allows them to do is screen the participants. You have to basically rely on members of Congress to contact you rather than waiting for them to, rather than you just showing up on your own initiative and attending. So, for example, Darrell Issa is a member of Congress from the San Diego area, has a telephone town hall system whereby you have to sign up. It has to be verified that you're a constituent from his district, and then his people will call you and let you know when he's available to engage in the town hall. And that's just sort of not the way it ought to work, but there's a climate now where Republicans are making themselves out to be victims somehow because angry people will show up to one of their events. So, for example, Chris Collins, a Republican from New York, and Peter Roxham, a Republican from Illinois, both have said that they don't plan to host any in-person town halls because of the, quote, current hostile climate. Oh, isn't that a shame? You have to subject yourselves to a hostile climate. Politics should always be very placid and non-hostile, and everybody should get along really well, right? That's what politics is about. And then Tom MacArthur has said, there was a Republican from New Jersey, has said that he doesn't want to be baited into having an event that some outside group can just make a spectacle out of. Okay, so this has long been an excuse for why a member of Congress should not be compelled to hold an in-person town hall. That there's this specter of outside groups who might show up and thwart the will of the legitimate constituents to have a productive exchange with a member of Congress. So you can always cite some nefarious outside agitator group that could come in and cause mayhem. Even though, a lot of those people are bound to be from your district, and even if they're not from the district, these are open events. I mean, anybody can attend. So that's not a valid excuse. And what's really interesting is that if you go back and look at what happened in 2009, so remember in 2009, the Affordable Care Act was being legislated. There was a very raucous debate over whether various aspects of it should be included in the bill. Republicans were incensed. They received a lot of grassroots energy to oppose this bill because it represented socialized medicine, and people were going to be subjected to death panels. Remember that? So here's what former Representative Brian Baird, who is a Democrat from Washington State, said on August 6th, 2009, when he was asked by a local Washington State newspaper as to why he would no longer be holding in-person town halls. He would be merely holding telephone town halls. So I don't know. Maybe that's an example of history repeating itself, right? Here's what he said, quote, instead of appearing in person where, quote, extremists would have, quote, the chance to shout and make YouTube videos, Baird said Wednesday, he's holding telephone town halls instead because he fears opponents might be planning a, quote, ambush during the meetings. And here's what Baird said. What we are seeing right now is close to brown shirt tactics. I mean that very seriously. So, of course, Baird shouldn't be expected to hold town halls if he can create the impression that he might be victimized by brown shirts who might be showing up to his town hall meetings to express their discontent with the healthcare law, right? So that wasn't a valid excuse then. The Republican excuses are not valid now, and there's little difference there. Now, part of this has to do with when incumbents are in power for a while in Congress, they don't tend to feel any compulsion to hold a town hall meeting because, they can pretty much be guaranteed to be reelected without much campaigning and without much effort. So you have somebody like Rodney Frelinghuysen, who is a member of Congress from New Jersey, actually my hometown district, who hasn't held a town hall meeting in 4 years. And is not holding town hall meetings in the foreseeable future, but he has constituents now who are holding town hall meetings for him in absentia. So they're going around to different parts of the district and holding their own kind of civic events and issuing him explicit invitations to attend. And when he doesn't attend, they just hold a meeting themselves, and then they have an empty seat for him, which I think is a great idea. And that should be done for both Republicans and Democrats. And later today, I'm actually going to be going to one of those events where people in a district are annoyed that their congressman is not performing this duty. I would say it's a duty, too. It's not just something that should be optional. They are holding in the San Diego area a town hall for Darrell Issa, who has amusingly enough said that he won't be attending because he had an obligation to tour a local homeless shelter. Which sounds very virtuous of him. I don't know. I have doubts as to the veracity of that excuse. I'd like to see that corroborated. But in any event, I'm curious to see how this event is conducted in the San Diego area. So tune into TYT Politics for that. That will be later tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, that's about it. See you soon.